Hi, Algebra 1. It's nice to be here back. Reminder, if you need to finish the test or take the test that we had on Tuesday, please make sure you come in during your off period. The sooner you get it done, the better. I'm going to be on page 69. Page 69 in your workbook. First thing I want to take a look at, this is not part of your notes, but down towards the bottom, I want you to think about this problem. This is a problem that we definitely would have seen before. Okay? So think about how we factor this. Multiply those together, I get negative 30. So I know that I have a positive and I have a negative number. And the two numbers that multiply to give me negative 30 and also add to give me the negative 1 are going to be negative 6x and positive 5x. Okay, negative 6 times 5 is negative 30. Negative 6x plus 5x is negative 1. So if I plug those in as I've been doing, this continues all of the stuff that we've been working with. Bring down this positive, factor out a 5 from both of those. That's going to be x minus 6. Those are the same, what you want. Okay, so I want you to think about this. We have this negative 6 here, and we have this positive 5 here. Okay, so let's take a look. I'm going to use an online graphing tool, and I know our problem doesn't say y equals, but I'm going to go y equals, and I'm going to type in our original problem, so x squared minus x minus 30. Now, I'm not asking you to know how to use decimals, okay? But we're going to take a look at it. All right, so take a look here. I get a negative 5 there. I get a positive 6. So I have a negative 5 and a positive 6. Look at this. This is a negative 6 and a positive 5, so it's backwards, right? So I just want to think about that for a minute. Think about if I tried one more problem. Let's say I had this problem that looks like this. Multiply those together so I get positive 12. So both will be positive. So 3 and 4 are going to work. So positive 3 and positive 4x are both going to work. So I'm going to get x squared plus 3x plus 4x plus 12. Factor an x out. This plus comes down. Factor 4 out. X plus 3. So I'm going to get x plus 3 and x plus 4. Okay, so I have a positive 3 and a positive 4. So let's graph that one, see what that one's going to look like. So let's get rid of this one. So I get x squared plus 7x plus 12. Okay, so let's click here and here. Notice I have a negative 4 and a negative 3. Here I had a positive 3 and a positive 4. So let's think about how we might incorporate that. So on the top of page 69, we're on the first problem. So we're going to have 5, and x minus 3 equals 0. Well, how can we solve this problem? Well, if I divide both sides by 5 first, and I get x minus 3 all by itself, 0 divided by 5 is 0. Add 3 to both sides. So what this means is if I take positive 3 and I plug it into our original x, I'd get 5 and then 3 minus 3. Is that equal to 0? Well, 3 minus 3, do what's inside the parentheses first, is 0. 5 times 0 is 0. 0 is equal to 0. Let's take a look at problem number 2 in your notebook. We have x and we have x plus 5. That's equal to 0. So what I want to think about, this is factored, agree? I mean, I could redistribute x in and I'd get x squared plus 5x, but let's leave it like this for right now. So I have two parts of this problem. I have this part and I have this part. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your parts and set them equal to 0 because we have a 0 over here. So x equals 0, that's an answer. X plus 5, well, we have to get x by itself, so I'll subtract 5 from both sides. So I get x equals negative 5. If I plug 0 in for my x's, my answer becomes 0. If I plug negative 5 in, this becomes 0, so it becomes 0 times negative 5, and that's also 0. Take a look at number 3. I have x plus 1, I have x minus 4, and that's equal to 0. There's no reason to multiply this all back together. I have 3 parts to this problem. So I'm going to take each of those parts and set it equal to 0. So my first answer is x equals 0. My second answer, I'm going to get x plus 1 equals 0. Subtract 1 from both sides. I get x equals negative 1. Then I have x minus 4 equals 0. Add 4 to both sides. So look at this. I have 3 answers. 0, negative 1, and 4. If I plug 0, negative 1, or 4 into any of those x's, so if I plug 0 into all the x's, the answer is 0. If I plug negative 1 into all the x's, the answer is 0. Plug 4 into any of the x's, the answer is going to be 0. Let's take a look at number 4. Number 4 is just like number 1. Let's divide both sides by 6 first. Get rid of that. 0 divided by 6 is 0. Add 2 to both sides. X is equal to 2. Okay, this is our answer. Answers are sometimes referred to something called a solution. So answer and solution mean the same thing. So if I plug 2 back into our original problem, the answer will work out to be 0. Number 5, I have 4x minus 3 and 2x plus 9 is equal to 0. So let's take our 2 parts and set those equal to 0. Add 3 to both sides. Divide each side by 4. So we get an answer of 3/4. That means if I plug 3/4 in for x on our problem, the answer would work out to be 0. If I divide each side by 9, or subtract 9 from both sides, excuse me, divide both sides by 2, so I get x equals negative 9 over 2. If I plug negative 9 over 2 in for both those x's, the answer would also come out to be 0. Okay, let's go on to page 70, the backside, page 70. So the directions are they want us to factor completely and then use the zero product property. That just means that we have it equal to 0. So we have to factor it first and then work it out. So let's multiply those together. Remember there's 1 there, so that gives me negative 12. That means I have a positive and a negative component here. So 1 times 12 gives me 12, 2 times 6, and 3 times 4. One of them's got to be positive, one's got to be negative, so the 2 and 6 are going to work. So I'm going to have a positive 6x and a minus 2x equal, or minus 12. That would have given me my 4x. Use our parts that we've been doing. Bring down that middle sign. Factor 2 out, change both signs over here. So now I'm going to get x plus 6 and x minus 2. Looks just like we've been doing, but now we're going to have it equal to 0. So I'm going to take each part and set it equal to 0. So I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides. X minus 2 equals 0. Add 2 to both sides. So if I were to plug negative 6 in for my x's, my answer comes out to 0. If I were to plug positive 2 in for all my x's, my answer would come out to 0. Number 2, I don't know why that we have ours upside down. Let's flip it over this way. Let's put the 0 at the end. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take out a greatest common factor. So I can factor a 4 out of everything. I can also factor an x out of everything. So that's x squared plus 2x minus 3. That's equal to 0. Let's bring this down. And then we have to figure out what's in the rest of the parentheses. So I'm going to multiply negative 3 times 1. So I get negative 3. So I have a positive and a negative component. So a positive 3x and a negative 1x will add up to the positive 2. So I'm going to get x squared plus 3x minus 1x minus 3. I'm going to factor an x out of both. Bring down that negative. Factor a negative 1 out of both. Let's change both those signs. So I'm going to get x plus 3 and x minus 1. Now we're going to do that very last thing. We said it was equal to 0 originally up here. So I'm going to take my 3 parts and set them equal to 0. So we divide each side by 4. X equals 0. X plus 3 equals 0. Subtract 3 from both sides. And then go x minus 1 equals 0. Add 1 to both sides. And there's our answer. Oh, my thing got goofed up right away. Just in time. I'm all done with the lesson. Okay, so what we would like to work on today is, why don't you take a look at page 71 and 72. And I think if we did, actually we're going to not even do anything on 1 through 12. Why don't we just work on 13 through 19. 19 might be a little tougher. See if you can figure out where the error might have taken place on number 19. Big hint is it equal to 0? Okay, that's all I have for you. Have a nice day. Take care of one another.